It is that time again. And it seems like over the past week, things have changed. The topic, the conference of my topics, as far as the majority of my videos, has been the Pac 12. And 3 or 4 days in a row, it was all doom and gloom. Arizona State was ready to bounce. They weren't happy. And then some things changed. I brought on some guests yesterday. They talked about what was going on, what they've been hearing, possible TV deal going on. And instead of the Pac 12 being on its heels, maybe the ACC and the Big 12. I'm saying maybe. I'm not saying definitely, but maybe. Maybe the ACC and the Big 12 should be on their heels as well. So we're going to talk about that, reasons why maybe they should, and reasons that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they are okay. We want to cover both sides of the aisle. We don't want to be, just focused on, one thing and how we think it's going to be no matter what, because there's different possibilities out there. We don't know. The great thing about conference realignment is we don't know what's going to happen. That's the point of these videos. I don't know. These are not predictions. These are, what if this happens? What if that happens? You just never know. So what's going on, guys? I think maybe somebody else is. Nope. I thought I heard a beep. So what's going on, guys?
Well, just excited to be here, man. And like you, we don't know what's going to happen.
Nope.
But I think right now everybody's safe because of the new contracts coming out, the grant of rights, all that stuff. But I think, you know, 5, 6 years, 7 years down the road, come 2030, we're going to see some major shakeup in college football. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's when the SEC and Big Ten are going to flex their muscles
Yep.
and show everybody, how powerful they are.
I definitely agree with that, Joey. Quick reminder to the chat: if you haven't, I'm not saying you haven't, but if you haven't, please hit the like and subscribe button. That's what helps these videos hit the YouTube algorithm. Even if you're watching a replay of this, hit the like button. It still helps the video, even when we're not live anymore. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that. And on top of that, if you have a question for me, Tide Guy, Joey, I think we have Coos coming in here later, maybe the Outlaw College Football. We reached out to a lot of people for this show, so we'll see if some more guests come in here. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests or a comment, troll attempt, hey, thick skin, part of the checklist, right? Hit the super chat button, get our attention, and it supports the channel. It is that little $sign that you see on the bottom right hand corner. Anything you say in that super chat is going to go right on the screen for everybody to see, and we'll address it to the best of our ability. And of course, it is the off season, so those donations really, really help in the off season. I mean, we appreciate it no matter what, but in the off season, the importance of those donations are actually even more important. So yesterday we talked about the Pac-12 possibly having a TV deal, right? And on top of that, expansion. That was the last thing. That was the last thing that I was thinking about for the Pac-12. And so today I made a video on, the teams we talked about, whether it's 2, whether it's 6, whatever. And I kind of wanted to take a different angle with this video tonight. Should other conferences be on the defensive now that the Pac-12 is rumored to have a deal, and it looks like they could be on the offensive? They are looking to be aggressive and possibly nab some teams. Are there any conferences that could be on the radar of the Pac-12 as far as them possibly grabbing members? And if so, what teams would fit that criteria if the Pac-12 would be looking at, say, the Big 12 or the ACC?
Now, the way I look at it, the Big 12 right now, the only time they're going to be in trouble, I believe, is if they move now. The Big 12 needs to stand pat, and here's why. They've got 12 teams. Okay, you're losing Texas and Oklahoma after this year. You're bringing in BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, Houston. Give them a couple years, acculate them, get used to them. What does it really gain? I mean, the Pac-12 has to grab San Diego State. They need an SMU, and then we'll discuss, whatever. The Big 12 don't need that right now, because right now the only teams available to the Big 12 will not help them.
Right.
Okay. If they could have cracked the Pac-12, yeah, I can understand that. If they could have cracked the ACC, I understand that. But Memphis doesn't move the needle. Tulane doesn't move the needle right now for a Big 12. The Big 12 needs to do what the SEC and the Big Ten is doing. Close their doors. Let's wait until somewhere around 2030, maybe 2033, somewhere in between there. And then let's go after the ACC. Because that's when the Big 12 can get teams.
Yeah.
Now, one
by
thing
the way,
I will say,
the bowl record needed to make the regular season record needed to make a bowl is still 6-6 as of right now. I saw somebody mention that in the comments, but they're looking into raising that to 7-5, and that would eliminate 10 bowls. I would say if you're going to do that, then the group of 5 need to break off because that's who that would affect the most.
Right.
I know this is a side thing, but I wanted to address it because I saw it real quick.
that's
So if that were to happen, the group of 5 teams would be affected the most. So that's when the group of 5 needs to break off, and those 10 balls can go towards that playoff for the group of 5. But it's not there yet. But they're looking into it.
I wanted to say something about what Ty Guy was just saying, and he's right that Memphis don't move the needle. But here's what I thought. I thought when Big 12 was expanding, I really figured Memphis would be one of those teams, mainly because of the FedEx money, and it gets us into a different market, and it brings in more recruiting, in Memphis area and that general area down there. I just thought that would be a great addition. Now, the 4 teams they took are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy for it.
Right.
But I think if they would have went ahead and went ahead and got Memphis at the same time and brought in 5, I think it would have been okay too. Because I think Memphis would be a great addition for somebody. Not now, not since the contract
The
signed.
things that have happened have hurt Memphis and Boise State the most.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
well,
Memphis,
think about it like this too, though, Joey. Memphis is sitting there. Who's going to go after Memphis? The Pac-12 really is not going to go after Memphis.
Now.
The SEC's not wanting Memphis. The Big Ten ain't. So Memphis is sitting there, and the only 2 conferences that would have interest in Memphis are the ACC and the Big 12. The ACC can't do nothing for 14 years. So the Big 10 or the Big 12 is in no hurry to take them.
right.
Since you signed the contract that says you grab a G5 team, there's no extra money. There's no incentive. The only incentive right now for the Big 12, and I would tell them to move tomorrow on it. I like the idea of them getting Gonzaga. Okay, it's a basketball only. As long as they don't ask for more than $4 million, they're not taking any money out of the kitty. You can take that out of the basketball money. Nobody's going to lose money, and it'll actually make you money.
Right. I agree there.
This whole thing, you know what this whole thing screams to me? It seems to me that a smart decision by both of these conferences, I'm talking about the Pac-12 and the ACC, would be a merger. Seriously, think about it. So they would be definitely hurting the Big 12 because they would be locking down their teams. And I think those teams would be happier because I think the TV deal combined between the 2 would be renegotiated. Maybe it would attract more teams as far as the academic teams like your Texas Techs, your Kansas, those few teams in the Big 12 that are considered academic teams into a mega conference like that. And I think it would ensure both the Pac-12 and the ACC stability and be guaranteed a spot into that league that we're all thinking it. We all think it's going to happen one day, whether it's 3 conferences, whether it's the SEC and the Big Ten, whatever the case may be, it's going to happen. So I would think that the Pac-12 and the ACC are like, look, this is going to help us both out. If we want to still keep it regional as far as our teams go, but just, we're in the same conference, that basically guarantees our future. And even if some teams still leave the ACC, like a Clemson, a Florida State, a handful of teams, so the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever, they're still in business because they just grabbed a chunk over here out west. And these are like-minded schools as far as academics goes. And it's almost like surrounding, in the old days where they would surround their enemies and that's how they would beat them. You would have the Big 12 surrounded, and the Big 12 is looking on all fronts and like, oh, crap, what do we do now? And it would almost force the Big 12 to make a move if they did that. What would you think about that?
And I think you could see that happen. The reason it's not going to happen now is in the Big 12, you got West Virginia and Oklahoma State, who's not going to sign on to that because you guys have a chance at getting to the SEC. There is the chance out there. So you don't want to give up the chance. And in the ACC, like you said, you've got North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, Florida State, Miami. Those 5 for sure really know that either the Big Ten or the SEC will pick them up. So right now they don't want to do anything because they know the top schools would leave. And I also think in the Big 12, I think you got Baylor trying to put money into facilities, and look what they've done. They've got aspirations.
Beautiful, beautiful stadium.
So they want a chance at the SEC or the Big Ten, or I think eventually, if it comes down to 4 conferences, and this is my theory, and it's just my theory, the Big Ten makes it, and the Big Ten is going to be kind of the Northeast, even though they got UCLA. The SEC is going to be more the Southeast. You're going to have the Big 12 in the middle, and then you're going to have the PAC out in the Mountain West. The ACC, if we lose a conference, that's a conference we're going to lose. Because
I was about to ask you that.
Yeah, they got the teams, and no offense to the Pac-12 or the Big 12. The teams in the ACC are what the Big 10 and the good teams are there right now. And so I think you will see more of a merge, like you said, but I think they go to the Big 12.
I think a good move right now, and this would be what I would do if I was the Big 12. A great move right now is you've got Gonzaga interested in the Big 12, but they want to come in basketball only. Okay, bring them in. But I would also invite Memphis in for basketball only and lock them into the Big 12 so that later on down the road in 2030, when you want to expand in football, you could bring Memphis in football as well.
You call in first.
But here's the problem, Joey, and this is what we don't know. And I'm not saying that that's not a good idea, but here's the thing. How many teams right now are in the Big 12? There's going to be 12, right? So you're going to have 8 spots. What is the real number? And nobody knows the real number of what the super conference is going to go. The SEC and the Big 10 might come and find out, you know what, guys? 16 is the top of the road, or 20 is the top of the road, or 18. Maybe it's not the 24 that we've talked about and everybody's talked about. We don't really know what the top number. So as the Big 12, do you want to let in 2 more schools that aren't that big, or 4 more? What if the Big 10, let's say, takes any combination? Let's say they take Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, and Virginia. Okay, so there's 4. And the SEC takes Virginia Tech, Duke, Clemson, and let's say NC State. Well, there's still a lot of good teams in the ACC that would benefit the Big 12 more than
Kim brings up Louisville. I think Louisville would be a great fit for the Big 12.
Yeah, you got Louisville, you got Pitt, you have Syracuse, you have Georgia Tech, which will get you in the Georgia market. You have Wake Forest, which ain't a great football, but it's a good institution, good basketball, which you guys are great in basketball. So there's other teams out there that would move the needle a lot more than Memphis. So I think the Big 12 needs to kind of stand pat. I know they want to rush off and, secure themselves, but I think by standing pat is their best move. Why fill up with filler teams when good teams could come later? Because it's really hard, and I haven't seen it done yet in my life.
Joey, Uncle Lou shouting us.
I see that. I was getting ready to address that. Uncle Lou, no, really, seriously, this is just talking like we're just curious about what's going to happen. Not right now, not necessarily now. We're talking down the road, 2030, 2031, somewhere in that area. What could possibly happen here with these super conferences and everything?
What about what John Teal is saying? Appreciate the $5 donation, but he says, if the PAC gets San Diego State, and we that's one team that we think the Pac-12 will get. Fresno State, SMU, Rice, UTSA, and Texas Tech or TCU. We would put the Big 12 in the crossface chicken wing tap out. That's a great submission move, by the way.
We talked about that
very
last
painful.
night.
I've been put in that. That is very painful, by the way.
We talked about that last night, and if the Pac-12 was to try to get anybody out of the Big 12, it would be Houston, and what was the other one?
TCU.
I think it would be Texas Tech.
No,
but
Texas Tech.
Pac-12's already said that. The Pac-12 has come out and said they would They would have taken Houston and TCU if they would have decided to expand. What was that, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
2021.
The thing
Yeah.
that blew my mind was whenever Tony said that the Pac-12 turned down Oklahoma and Oklahoma State when they wanted to join because Texas was not involved. That absolutely blew my mind.
Right. And the other thing that, we mentioned last night also was Texas Tech has applied 4 times to the Pac-12 and been shot down every time.
Right.
So
But
the
I do
Pac-12
think
doesn't-
it's a different situation for the Pac. Like with USC and UCLA, I think they're going to be more willing to accept those teams that they turn down as long as their academics are good. And Texas Tech does have good academics.
Right. But see, they want Houston first because of a bigger market.
Right.
And Houston's a good fit. And like, Uncle Lou, yeah, I mean, the only additions you're going to have right now is the Pac-12. And we'll know that in a week or two. Are they going to stand pat? Are they going to get 2, 4, 6? What's their number?
Right.
They're going to grab. And then after that, conference realignment is done until around 2030.
Yeah. Right. I agree
by the
there.
way, we'll do a call-in show during the week when I don't have any guests. We had Tony Altamore and Ty Guy on last night, and tonight we have Joey and Ty Guy. I think Coos is going to drop by, and I invited Jesse Paul, outlaw of college football, as well. So whenever we don't have a panel, we'll do the live call-in again. But I think this is, we're trying to figure out who survives. I think that's the basic question: who is going to survive, and what are these mega conferences going to look like? Because it's going to happen. I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten have already taken that step. I mean, they're going to be at 16 teams. That's a mega conference, in my opinion. So the question is, who's going to go with them? How many conferences will there be? And how many members will those remaining conferences? So I want to ask this question point blank. Okay. Out of the Pac-12, Big 12, ACC, and maybe you've already answered this, but maybe the people listening haven't heard you. I think I already know the answer. Out of the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC, who do you think would be in the most danger of not making the cut in the future?
It'll be the ACC because the Pac-12 only has realistic 2, maybe 3 teams that would be beneficial to the Big Ten. The SEC don't want to go out west, so I mean that's not an option. The Big
not
12,
even Oregon or Washington.
Yeah,
I know
no.
I've heard people say that. No,
it's not worth our time. The Big 12. There's 2 teams, maybe 3 teams that could be of interest. Unfortunately, the ACC, there's, between 5 and 7 teams, depending on, 8 if you want to include Notre Dame, so that team's going to get picked apart. And for them to grab the Big 12, one of them's going to grab the other. And I think I think the Big 12 would have the more teams, be more stable, and be able to take over the ACC and have, if a conference dissolves,
right,
more than likely it will be the ACC.
It just looks to me like I don't know why it's starting to shape up like this in my head. Is that they're trying to separate things too and making these basketball conferences and these football conferences to where they're, because Big 12 is pretty good at basketball, ACC is pretty good at basketball. But the football programs are SEC and Big Ten that everybody talks about. So it seems like they're just trying to separate that way. But at the same time, there's some good football programs in the Big 12 and the ACC at the same time. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there and how that would work out if you was to take some of the better. Because a lot of times the better basketball programs don't have the greatest football teams, and vice versa.
It's very weird how that works out. You have blue bloods in basketball, but they're terrible in football, and then blue bloods in football that are terrible in basketball. Now, Alabama here recently, man, you guys have been ripping it pretty good at basketball, except when you had to go on the road and play Oklahoma. Then you got your rear end ripped.
But you've had teams like Florida do really well in football and win the national champion, or Ohio State do really well in football and then they win.
Both of those 2 teams won the national championship in college football and basketball in the same year.
Yeah, so I mean, there are teams like that. UCLA, they've been great in basketball, but they've had great years in football. But usually,
Notre Dame.
Yeah, usually a team focuses on one or the other. I mean, they put more resources in one or the other.
To your point, that might be one of the issues at West Virginia. We are only one of 3 teams that are top 25 in total wins in both football and basketball, and that's great. As far as having that much success, but it does make you wonder, what if West Virginia committed to one or the other? And of course, I would prefer football.
Unfortunately, West Virginia, I think, would prefer football because football moves the money. Yeah, that's where the money is. So they're going to go where the money,
That's where the passion is too for us.
Yeah, so I think they would move with, the football team more.
Yeah. John Teal corrected himself. He said, I forgot Houston, which I appreciate the $2 donation, buddy. 4 California teams and 4 Texas teams. That's not a bad ratio if the Pac-12 were able to do that. I mean, I didn't separate those the way he's doing it as far as 4 California and 4 Texas. I mean, 4 schools in 2 of the largest hotbed of recruiting. I know they're not the best brands, but that's not a bad approach.
But no, I also think right now to do a big move, for the Pac-12 to try to go after the Big 12 or the Big 12 to really. Here's the thing: we got this year. We're playing by the old rules, but starting next year, teams are going to move, and we got the new playoffs coming in.
Yep.
So you're going to make money off the playoffs. A team in the Big 12 will have an easier road to the playoffs than if they go to the Pac-12 and vice versa. If you load up one team, it's going to be harder. So, and I truly don't think that this playoff is going to work. I think within 4 or 6 years, they're going to get greedy again, because think about it. We went from 4 teams to 12 teams, and we went from $500 million to $1 billion worth of, TV for the playoff. Yep. They're going to want to go to 16 because there's a lot more money there.
But wouldn't that be the opposite? Like, it is working, so we want to expand again?
Well, yeah, but I think they're going to get tired of having teams have buys. I think that's going to bother some people, so they're going to just go ahead and move it to 16. Okay. I think they'll blame the buys, but in all honesty, it's money. I mean, unfortunately, everything today is dollar signs. And trust me, if ESPN goes to the Big Ten and the SEC and says, look, we're going to pay $1 billion for this playoff, but if you guys vote to add 4 more teams, we'll give you, $1.3 billion. So we'll give you an extra $300 million a year. Guess what? Everybody's going to vote for that.
Yeah. I would say, as far as the ACC goes, the one team that I think that could be a wild card as far as determining other teams' fate, because some of these teams I think are locks. Like, I think Clemson and Florida State are going to the SEC. North Carolina, probably the Big Ten, but I could also see them going to the SEC. I think Georgia Tech's going to be the Big Ten, in the Big Ten. Virginia, either or. But I think Miami could be the wild card. I think that's that one team that nobody really, because I could see Miami going to the Big 12. I could see Miami going to the SEC. I could see Miami going to the Big 10. And I know you listed a bunch of teams yesterday that, said, no, we would never want Miami.
Well, no,
but with more members, you would need more votes.
Florida State is the problem. We don't want Florida State because we feel like they snubbed us. They snubbed us in 92. And there's some bad blood there. Plus, Florida has some bad blood with Florida State. I don't know why they accept Miami. I thought there was bad blood there too, but there's not. But yeah, I mean, and here's the other big wild card. What if Notre Dame finally wakes up tomorrow and says, they don't like the Big Ten as much as people think. Them and Michigan have huge problems, and you could do a whole show on the hatred between Michigan and Notre Dame going back.
Exactly.
But what if Notre Dame wakes up tomorrow and says, you know what, guys, I'm going to stay in the ACC. We're going to move our football team over to the ACC, and we're going to play in the ACC. Why does the ACC want to disband them? Why does it makes them legit? So I mean, Notre Dame. That's why, if you notice, the SEC kind of kisses Notre Dame's butt. We vote for Notre Dame. Hey, yeah, we'll let you guys get into playoffs. We have no problem, because you know why? The SEC will never get Notre Dame. Okay, they don't. Their academics don't want with us, and I don't blame them. And the SEC don't want Notre Dame in the Big Ten. Yeah. We want them in the, if they go anywhere, we'd rather have them in the ACC. We don't want them in the Big Ten, because
That makes sense. You want a strong brand in a conference that you're used to, beating up instead of making a strong conference even stronger. Kuz's Corner has joined the show. Appreciate you dropping by, buddy. So there for a while, we were thinking that the Big 12 was interested in the Four Corners. TV talks were not going very well at all. We heard Arizona State was mad. And now we're kind of hearing that, the Pac-12 actually does have a decent TV deal lined up. All teams are staying. And they might actually go after San Diego State or an SMU or a Fresno State. As a fellow West Virginia fan and a member of the Big 12, how much do you think that would hurt the Big 12 if we couldn't grab those teams?
I don't know that it hurts us.
I would agree with that.
It just doesn't. I mean, I'll be frank with you. Getting those 4 teams didn't really excite me that much.
Nope.
The only one that maybe would have been Arizona State because of the Phoenix market. But even with that, I mean, as a West Virginia fan, traveling all the way to Arizona is not that appealing to me. When we're already going to be traveling to Provo, and we already travel to Texas and Kansas and Iowa and all these other places.
Yeah.
Now Phoenix would have been an easy place to travel to.
Legislature, if you bring in Arizona State, you have to bring in Arizona.
That's my understanding, yes. But we saw with the UCLA Cal thing, that's not always there's always ways around that.
Well, here's the thing, Kuz, and I don't know if you know this, but Arizona and Arizona State, they have all the exact same regions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem there, is the regions. And like you were going to say, with Phoenix, flying into Phoenix, the football stadium's a 7-minute drive from the airport. So, I mean,
yeah,
the travel there isn't as bad, but still, that would add a lot to you guys as far as softball, basketball, the little sports.
Yeah. And I was going to say it probably wouldn't be as bad as it may not. Phoenix may actually be easier to travel to than Ames, Iowa, or Lubbock, Texas, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because those places don't have some of those other cities don't have airports to fly into, and you have to bus.
Yep.
Yeah, Lubbock, Texas is a tough place to get into. About like Morgantown is
very isolated.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Morgantown's not easy to travel from either.
Right.
So they have to bus from Morgantown to Clarksburg, West Virginia, which is about probably a 45-minute drive in a bus. Then you have to get on a plane and fly to wherever, a small town in Kansas or Iowa or Lubbock, or then you have to bus from there again from the airport to the stadium. So it's not, it's not like they're taking direct flights to these places.
Right.
They're not flying into the stadium.
Right.
And for football, it's not that big of a deal because you only play one game a week. But when you're talking these Olympic sports that play multiple games a week, it becomes brutal for these players, man.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what I've stated, Coos? You know what I've stated? Sometimes, and I've stated this in the past, sometimes the interest of the Big 12 creates friction with the interests of West Virginia, because I do think it would help the Big 12 to get those teams out west, but it would definitely not help West Virginia, us being on that side. I'm wanting the Big 12 to get some east side teams. So I'm actually, if this is true, the Pac-12 does have the TV deal and nobody's leaving, I'm actually a little bit relieved, and I say, okay, Big 12, relax, and let's wait on the ACC to implode.
Yeah, we're going to be waiting a long time because that granted rights deal they have is from now to eternity.
Yeah, I said probably 2032, 2033 before talks really pick up. You'll pick up about 2 to 3 years before that grant of rights is up. But yeah, you're looking a long time, 10 years.
Well, here was my suggestion. If I was the ACC commissioner, this is what I would do. Okay, I'll get ESPN back to the negotiating table, right? And this is how I would renegotiate that TV deal. All right. So, hey, we want a bump, but what we'll do is we'll shorten the TV deal. That way you can get your teams in the SEC sooner rather than later. And then you're showing that you're able to get more value for your team. And even though those teams are leaving, then the ACC would be more appealing to some teams in the Big 12, maybe some high caliber AAC teams like Memphis. Because I did a video on, a possible new look of the ACC if that were to happen. And it actually turned out really, really good. If they were able to keep these teams, Wake Forest, Boston College, no brainer. They're stuck. If the ACC implodes, they're screwed. All right.
Yeah.
But if they're able to keep Syracuse, Louisville, Pitt, maybe an NC State or a Virginia Tech or a Miami, 7 or 8 solid teams in there, and then the others, pick their Big Ten or SEC or whatever. Maybe they could say, hey, we still got some strong brands over here, and hey, West Virginia, traveling would be way, way easier, over here in the Big 12. Hey, ACC. Hey, Cincinnati, come check us out. Hey, UCF, come check us out. And then if that happens, that could trickle over to maybe a Houston, maybe an Iowa State, maybe an Oklahoma State. I'm not saying it would exactly work that way, but you have to make some moves because this TV deal just has all these ACC teams pissed off. It just does.
And
so
you're
just relying on 2036. What are you going to do when 2036 gets here? Because everybody wants to leave anyways.
The other thing that can do GBD is, and people don't think about this, because everybody asks, well, why would ESPN open up the deal with the ACC? They got a good deal right now. But think about it. It is a good deal today, but it's not a good deal in 8 years. Because as with all TV contracts, like the Big 12, $31.7 million is your new deal. But guess what? In year 2, it goes up a little, it goes up, it goes up. Every year it goes up. So from 2030 on, that ACC deal is in the $45 to $50 million range. So if ESPN opens it up now and says, okay, we'll pay a little bit more now to shorten the grant of rights to 7 years, and then put everybody, you'll have the Pac-12, from what I'm hearing, is signing a 7-year deal or a 6-year. It's actually a 6-year deal because it starts in 2024. So there's 2030. Now the deal the Big Ten just signed, it expires in 2030. So why don't ESPN save some money, pay a little bit more to the ACC now, get their grant of rights cut down to 2030, and then in 2030, ESPN can say, you know what? North Carolina, all these teams get out. We're going to pay you over here. We're not going to pay the ACC what we were paying them. And everybody wins because all the teams, Boston College, Syracuse, they're all going to make more money now. And what's really the difference with those schools, if they get, if the teams leave in 2030 or 2035, 2036, really what's the difference?
Right. I would agree with that. For sure.
But I just don't know that would happen because if you're an ESPN executive, you're sitting there looking at dollar signs and saying, okay, so we renegotiate and we pay more, and then in 2030 things change again. But we got them to 2036, paying them less. They could actually save money.
Think about this, Joey. Think about this though. In 2030, the contract with the ACC would be done because the grant of rights are up, right? So now, for 6 years, ESPN is not on the hook with the ACC, paying them between $45 and $55 million a year per team. So all that money they're going to save in 6 years. Yeah, it's going to cost them a little more up front, but in the long game, they're going to save a lot more money.
Especially getting the team sooner rather than later, and not having to worry about a $500 million exit fee.
But I don't think these networks can think that long ahead because.
That's
the landscape. The landscape is changing so rapidly. The streaming with Amazon and Netflix may take completely over by 2036, so it might be a moot point.
Amazon,
and of course ESPN can get in the streaming game of their own, and they already have. But my point to that is, I think there's going to be more competition in 2036 anyway. And then also, Disney, from what I've read, is losing money.
Yep.
Well, yeah, ESPN is losing money.
ESPN rather is losing money. Yeah. Disney's losing money with ESPN.
Yeah.
But I just don't see how they could. I don't know that they would be able to risk that, paying more money now.
But here's the problem with ESPN losing money. And I don't have I did do research on that, by the way, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. I didn't know we were going to go this direction, but a lot of the ESPN problem isn't that they're overpaying conferences and that. They sign too many people, like Smith, the reporter Smith. He's making $12 million. They overpaid a lot of commentators and stuff like that. So they need to restructure a lot of these contracts with the reporters and that. They also need to cut better deals with some of the like the Comcasts and that, because they're not getting as many subscribers as they were. The ESPN Plus that you were talking about, Coos, is terrible right now. People are only taking it for the most part during college football season because you're a college football fan. So you know, it's kind of like Golden Blue Dude was talking about Patreon members. You know, once the season's over, they drop. Well, that's how it is with ESPN Plus. People are dropping it once college football because there's not a lot on there.
What? Hey, hold on one second. I have to read this. This is a very, very in the distant future prediction, but it's I don't know. I'll let y'all decide what you think about it. So John Teal, thank you for the $2 donation, says 2036. That's over a decade from now. The ACC could get a new deal, $100 million each. Hold on. That's a question worth asking, because what if the teams in the ACC are willing to play the waiting game and 2036 does get here? Is there a payoff?
Nah, I don't know about. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's
I think
just too
it
far in
depends.
the future. I mean, if you look at the way these contracts are written now and the way they go up each year,
Well,
you know,
factoring in inflation as well. I mean,
right.
is that as good as it is now?
Well,
Right,
and
but
that's
you got to
something
realize
it's going to go up. But
even if it was $100 million apiece in the ACC, then that means it'd be a lot more in the SEC and the Big Ten, and it'd still be the
Right.
same boat we're in today. It's just going
They're
to
talking about
weigh out to
$200
be the
million in
same.
the SEC and the Big Ten by then.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Well,
hey, who
and
knows if
also-
the ACC can somehow entice Notre Dame to join?
That would be
Yeah, they get Notre Dame, it's a whole new ball game.
I don't
Yeah.
see that happening, but
No.
you know, if they somehow pull a rabbit out of a hat, you never know.
Well,
I don't
the
want to
other-
change the subject at all, but because I like talking about this, but I got to ask Ty Guy about something here real quick, because he's going to have to leave here in about 5 or 10 minutes. I know. Hey, Ty Guy. So today, Alabama made a big move and hired Kevin Steele, got him away from Miami, and you know, y'all had him in 2007, a great defensive coordinator then, but the problem is his defense is kind of old, in my opinion, and can't keep up with the offenses of today. And we've seen that starting back in 2011, 2012, when he was at Clemson, that he couldn't keep up with these kind of offenses. And, you know, Dabo ended up firing him. Then he, you know, when he signed on in Miami last year, I kept saying, that's a bad hire. Y'all are going to see it's a bad hire. Turned out to be a pretty bad hire, in my opinion. I don't know. You think it's going to be okay?
Here's the thing. He was at Alabama in 07 till 09. And then he went to Clemson, and you said he did terrible. You know, he got blown out. But where did he go after he went from Clemson? He came back to Alabama. He helped us with the number 5 defense. He helped us with the number 11 defense. The thing is, and this is what you got to think of, you can give me any coach you want, and guess what? It's not his defense coming to Alabama. That's Nick Saban's defense. Nick Saban, for 15 years, has the same schedule. At 8 o'clock, we do this. At 8:15, you take a pee break. At 8:20, you're back in the, you know, I mean, he has everything so organized that honestly, why does Alabama always compete even though we lose half of our coaches and half of our players every year? It's because of the structure. The only time Alabama has ever changed was Nick Saban realized that running doesn't work, that the RPOs was coming, and, you know, so we went to more of a spread offense. That's the only change that he ever really made huge wise. You know, I mean, he makes little changes in that. So that defense will always be Saban's defense.
To answer Uncle Lou, yes, in 2036, this will still be a realignment channel.
Probably more so then. Probably more so then, because that's when them contracts
it'll
run
still
out.
be a realignment channel in 2060.
Yeah, it is fun to speculate sometimes. Anyway, I just wanted to run it by you, Jeff. I didn't mean to change the subject or anything.
No, I like Kevin Steele.
How dare you, Joey, get away from realignment? What are you thinking, man?
But I will tell you, with this $100 million deal, I bet the ACC in 2036 will be around $70 million, because let's face it, the new contract has them at what, about $55 million at 2035. So with inflation and with the new market, it will go up a little. But the Big Ten and the SEC will find out really soon. There's a ceiling. I mean, no matter how many you add or this and that, there's a ceiling. Fox and ESPN can only pay X amount of dollars, no matter how many teams you have, no matter how great you are. There's only so much TV money.
Yep.
And that's the other thing we got to talk about when we're talking conference realignment. What is the magic number for a conference? Nobody knows. Is 16 the perfect number? Is 18 better than 16? Is just 20 work?
I would say it depends on how many conferences are left standing.
Right.
Honestly, this is what I would say. I would think that it would be better to have 3 conferences with 16 members than 2 conferences with 24 members. That's my thinking.
I just don't see, with the new college football playoff expansion, I don't see the conferences falling apart. I think the college football playoff expansion is going to solidify or stabilize expansion and realignment for the time being anyway. Because
Do we think it'll
a
stop
fair
at
point.
12?
Very
Do you
fair
think it'll
point.
stop at 12, Coos? So we move to 12-team playoff. You think eventually they start looking at 16 or 18-team playoff?
I heard they've already started looking at 16.
They already are. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't read the article in detail, but I saw an article not long ago actually saying they've already started those conversations.
And Coos, you know why they're doing? I mean, and we talked about this before you come on. I made this comment. I think this playoff is only going to work 4 to 6 years, because I think some schools are going to be upset that people get a bye week. But the biggest thing is, we went from 4 teams.
Conference, be one of the best champions.
We went from 4 teams in the playoff paying $500,000 to now a 12 team paying $1 billion. So what does a 16 pay? We know it's going to pay more, and that's all football cares about right now. These colleges is money. So if ESPN and Fox, they bid up and say, "Look, you add 4 more teams, we'll give you an extra $300 million a year." Guess what? They're all going to sign off.
But here's my prediction. I think at some point, these college football programs are going to start unionizing, and these players are going to step up and they're going to say, "You know what? You guys are treating us like a bunch of gladiators out here, and we're not going to play all these games."
Yep.
I think that's eventually going to happen.
Uncle Lou, I'll answer your question. And in the 2036 Cheez-It Bowl, Georgia will lose to Marshall 24-17. Just let you know.
Hey, can I answer Uncle Lou?
Wait, are you saying Marshall's going to be in a Power 5 conference? Because you're going to have to be in a Power 5 to qualify for that.
Can I answer Uncle Lou a minute? Uncle Lou writes, Tennessee can't wait to score 50 points on Kevin Steele. What the hell's the difference? They scored 50 points on Pete Golding. I mean, come on. We already gave up 50 to Tennessee. What would be the difference?
Gave up 70 to West Virginia in 2012, just saying.
Honestly, with this playoff expansion, I think that it's brought more importance to the conference championships, because it's guaranteeing that the top 6 get in, right, and then the top 4 get a bye. So I'm not disagreeing saying that they won't move to 16, but I kind of like the way it's set up, because it's almost like we're just going through the motions with the conference championships. And if you're going to set out, let's say you're undefeated going into a conference championship, you're going to make the playoffs. Basically, especially if you're in the SEC, you're going in the SEC championship. 2021 Georgia undefeated going into the SEC championship. They were getting in no matter what. So if there was ever a game for somebody to sit out, it would be that. Big if, right? So with this playoff expansion and putting importance, hey, top 6 champions, you're in. Top 4 champions, you get a bye. I like these. If you're going to expand, in my opinion, you need these incentives to keep teams that know they're in the playoffs 2 weeks before the season's over with. That way they keep playing. Hey, we still have something to play for, even though we know we're basically in the playoffs, even if we lose out.
Well, what if you do this, though? Okay, you go to 16 teams. You have the top 6 conference winners move in, and you give them a first-round home game. So that still gives you something to play, because if you win, you're going to get a home game. So the 6 conference champions, they get a home game.
That's fair.
How long is it going to take before Notre Dame gets tired of getting left out of the bye or home game conversation? is another piece of this puzzle. Right now,
And when they
seem to
do
be
get
okay.
tired of it, where are they going to go?
That's the $100 million question, right?
Yeah.
Because
Honestly,
that's the question.
seriously, if I were Notre Dame and it gets to that point, I would choose the ACC. I would. Because the ACC has kissed their rear end for whether you like it or not. They have, and I think it would be an easier path to the playoffs for Notre Dame. Florida State's on the comeback, and maybe the ACC is about to get much better. I don't know, but I'm saying going by the past, I mean it has been an easier path.
Yeah, I mean, but the Big Ten is going to pay so much more. But here's the thing, though. I don't think Notre Dame makes decisions based on money like a lot of these other schools do, because they already have so much of it.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't need
That's why I threw in the easier path.
Right.
But here's the thing with Notre Dame.
Here's the fact. Here's the thing about
what do you
they
think?
don't. None of these schools. I'm
Do you
sorry. Go ahead,
think
Tag.
Do you think Notre Dame's ego is bigger than their need to have a bye? That's the problem. Notre Dame has an ego. But
it depends on how much they get beat, and they're thinking, hey, if we had to bye, we're going to have a better chance of winning this. So it's almost like the ego for independence and the ego of, all right, we want an easier path, and we want that bye. That way we have a better chance. So it's like, which ego wins out?
But think about this. What is Notre Dame? No offense. And believe it or not, I had my cousin played on the 1988 championship team, Don Grimm. But what has Notre Dame really done since 1988?
The last time Notre Dame won a national championship was against West Virginia.
Sorry.
I mean, think about that.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, and look at how big their egos are for not have won anything in what? 35 years?
Yeah, exactly.
But hey, guys, I got to run. I got a commitment. But thanks for having me on. GBD, nice seeing you, Coos. Joey,
All right,
buddy, yeah.
great night.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Good job. One of our loyal Pitt subscribers, along with Talk is Pitt, John Waffle HGP, thank you for the $9.99, not $4.99, $9.99 donation. To answer your question about Pitt to join the Big 12, it's not happening. Pitt administration is going to do everything they can to get into the Big 10. If not, they will go into.
Well, I don't see him going independent.
Independent. I did my research. He did his research.
Now, I will say this. Pitt's a great institution when it comes to academics and things. So the Big Ten would probably invite him in, no problem. But at
if
the same
there was
time,
a team not named Penn State in the Big Ten, yes.
Right, that's the problem. That's what I was going to say. Is at the same time, there's that problem of Penn State being in the Big Ten. So one thing that Coach said a while ago, I'm going to touch on, a lot of this conference realignment having to do with money. I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think that this football money really moves the needle for any of these institutions because they get so much research money. It's like Colorado, right? Colorado's making $300 million more a year by being in the Pac-12 than they did in the Big 12, and that's all just research money. It has nothing to do with football. I think that's what moves the needle of changing these conferences around.
Well, I think it depends on the school, individual school too. I mean, each school is going to be in a different situation financially than others. Like, I mean, obviously it mattered to USC and UCLA, right, for them to make the move. So I think it just depends on. But UCLA's been bleeding money. They need money desperately, so they probably didn't have much of a choice. They had to take it, right, to keep their.
But think about this, Coos. At the same time, they're moving from one conference that makes a ton in research and academics to another conference that does the same thing.
Good point.
It would be a better argument to say that they don't care as much if they had gone to the SEC.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wasn't thinking about that piece of it. But, yeah, you're right. The Big 12 and Pac-12 actually have a lot of similarities when it comes to
except for making money in football. They wanted that extra money. USC and UCLA got greedy, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. Everybody does it. You see more money, you're going to chase it, and that's what they did. Hey, these are even. What's the one thing that's not even? The football money.
Yeah.
I don't know if that had anything to do with it more than just having the prestige of being in the Big Ten with all those other great institutions as far as academics, and being able to travel the way they travel and stuff up there. is really amazing the way they link everything together and they get all these discounts traveling together, and they just work together as a great conference.
But I
And,
thought the Pac-12 done that too.
Yeah.
well, they do. They do. They
And
do share
pairs.
resources. They do share resources and libraries and stuff. But I don't know if it's as in depth as it is in the Big Ten the way they do it. It's kind
I
of
got
amazing if you look at it.
I would say this. I think the one regret for both a team and a conference would be Nebraska in the Big Ten. I don't think Nebraska has ever fit in the Big Ten. We even heard Scott Frost said, we don't have to get used to the Big Ten style. The Big Ten style has to get used to us. That was an utter fiasco. That is stupid. Hopefully, for the sake of USC fans and UCLA fans, they don't have the same mindset. And the same with AAU status. It dropped, shortly after they joined the Big Ten. I don't think Nebraska is a good fit in the Big Ten. I don't. I think the SEC would be a better fit for Nebraska, but honestly, the home run would be going back to the Big 12 as far as fit.
Oh, I agree with that, but I mean, but when you're a president on the academic side, being in the Big Ten's probably helped them tremendously in ways that people like us will never know.
Right, exactly. It does, but
at the cost
yeah, I agree. They're not a
of,
fit. They're not a fit in the Big Ten in any way, whether it's academically or having that AAU status now that's gone. There's no fit there. And now one thing I don't
But
understand.
they're getting heat from Nebraska fans because Nebraska fans are sick of this and they know that they don't fit in. And to be honest with you, Nebraska fans don't like playing the teams in the Big Ten. They like the money, they like the research and all that stuff.
Right.
But as far as the actual schedule, they don't like it.
Right.
Let me get into the super chat real quick. Hopefully I don't butcher this name. If I do, correct me in the comments. Viva Hernando 1. Thank you for the $5 donation. Says, the athletic budgets and endowment / research money are totally separate. That is correct. Maryland and UCLA were going to have to cut athletic programs without the Big Ten. Let me read that last part again. Maryland and UCLA were going to have to cut athletic programs without the Big Ten.
Well, now
Wow.
UCLA was in some
I don't
trouble.
know which athletic programs he's talking about, but still, that's a big deal.
Well, I know UCLA was in some trouble. Didn't they borrow money from the Pac-12 or something like that? They had to borrow some money. So I know they were in trouble. I don't think they would cut.
Big.
They're not going to cut athletic programs though. There's too much involved there to cut athletic programs. They might cut some smaller ones or something, but they're not going to cut like the bigger programs.
Yeah, basketball, football is there to stay. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But still, there are certain fan base groups within these universities that would be very upset. There's some loyal wrestling fans. There's some loyal volleyball fans. I know that sounds crazy. Who cares about? They're out there. They really, really are.
Well, and those student athletes matter too.
Yes. You don't want to give off the odor. I'm going to say it. The odor that you just in the business of cutting athletic programs, and then that tells everybody that the student athlete is not important, and don't do that. That's you're going to give yourself a bad luck.
Justin, no, we're not saying that at all. I sat here and read the comments, but I must have missed your comment if you had a question, buddy. I apologize, I didn't see it. If you want to type it again, I'll kind of watch for it. And Tag Guy says,
what happened?
Yeah, and Tag Guy says no, UCLA isn't broke. It's how they do their math. A lot of them do their math kind of funny. So.
Oh, what about what we found out? The two executives that got fired because they didn't tell anybody about the $50 million overpaid to the Pac-12 network by Comcast. How does that happen? And where did that money go? Because we know the teams have to pay it back, but the money went somewhere. Did it go to where it was supposed to go? Did they pocket it? There has to be a reason why they didn't tell anybody. Because if it were me and that happened, my thinking, unless something shady is going on, my thinking would be I need to tell somebody or my job is online. And obviously it was. They were fired. So the only thing that would make that worth it is so far nobody's went to that extreme to keep. So far everybody's kind of chalked it up to just human error, I think. But
It went on for 10 years.
$50 million error, and it went on for 10 years.
Yeah, that's hard to.
I'm not buying it.
I don't know either, but
That's some bad bookkeeping right there. If that's true, my gosh, no wonder the Pac-12 is in trouble. You can't do stuff like that. Sheesh.
Now,
but
we can read. Just don't use
Justin
big
was
words.
saying earlier, if this is true, the Pac-12 has a new TV deal, looking to expand. Whatever, nobody's going anywhere. I'm not disappointed. I was not huge on the Big Ten grabbing those. Being a West Virginia fan now, maybe if you're a fan of Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, or whatever, you're a little bit bummed. Whatever. But as a West Virginia fan, I'm not bummed at all because that would have been more travel for West Virginia on top of what we already do. And speaking of the Big 12, this year, I think they dropped the ball in scheduling in a few places. For West Virginia, I haven't analyzed every schedule. I'm going to do that and give my thoughts. Who has the toughest? Well, I can tell you right off the bat who has the toughest and easiest. Texas Tech has the toughest. Baylor, by far has the easiest. By far.
Oklahoma's is pretty easy too.
Yes, it is. Kissing the rear end of a team that's leaving. Anyways, for West Virginia, I think they dropped the ball by not putting in the Texas versus West Virginia game because this year it was supposed to be at West Virginia. That's a great series. It's basically the best rivalry that West Virginia has.
See, I look at that.
I think the series is split 6-6 right now, actually.
I
and
agree,
it could have been coined the tiebreaker game. You know, a lot of things to market that, but instead they take that out and put at Oklahoma in. I'm like, whatever. On top of that, they did match up West Virginia Houston, which I was hoping for, but they had one shot.
Yep.
One shot. What you do is you send Houston to Morgantown. Dana Horson's first year in the Big 12, going back to the school he used to coach, hostile road environment, storyline after storyline after storyline. What do they do?
Yeah,
they muck it up, and they send West Virginia to Houston. Yes, they can do it next year, but it's not going to have the same buzz.
Exactly.
That's just my opinion.
That's what I had said. I had said they missed the mark on that.
Number one, West Virginia's playing all four of those new schools. That helps. And number two, we get BYU at home. I would have been mad if we would have went to Houston and had to go to BYU. That would have been a double whammy right there. Yeah. Wade Bilger, or is it Bilger? Is it either Bilger or Bilger? Thank you for the $5 donation. Says, would Tulane be a better fit than Nebraska in the Big Ten? Fit? Yes. But it would never happen because big time revenue gap as far as what Nebraska would make for the Big Ten and what Tulane. But the reason I say fit, yes, is because Tulane has the academics. They have AAU status. So as far as the fit, yes. And I think even culturally, they would be a better fit than Nebraska as well.
Well, Tulane used to be in the SEC.
SEC. Yep.
Before you read John Waffle's chat, I want to give my comment on the schedule. I totally agree with you on the Houston piece. Totally missed opportunity for the Big 12.
Yep.
Actually touched on it in my video about it. The piece about playing the four new schools, I'm happy about. I think that's good for us because let's be honest, it may take them a year or two to get to adjust, and now's the best time to get them.
Right.
And we need some help. And then number two, as far as the Texas thing goes, I actually look at it the opposite. I look at it as a positive because Texas is probably going to be a really good team this year. And I'm not sure we want to play them right now, just to be frank.
Well, that's true, but at the same time, a road trip to Oklahoma, that's not a win.
I agree with you.
I think Oklahoma's going to be way better. It's on the road. They're going to be mad. That has blowout written all over it anyway.
Yeah, but I think Texas will be better than Oklahoma this year again.
Not in Morgantown. I don't think West Virginia wins that game. Don't get me wrong, but I think it'll be. West Virginia tends to keep things close against better opponents like TCU last year.
Mm-hmm.
It took that touchdown throw by Max Duggan in the last 20 seconds to actually put the game away. Right. I think it would be something like that against Texas. I think they would control the game. It would never be in doubt, but it would be close enough to where it would take a play like that towards the end to actually put it away.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I just don't think I think Texas is on the up and up, on the rise right
I
now.
have Texas and Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship with Texas winning it and getting to the playoffs.
Let me ask you a
So I
question.
agree.
Do you think, when you look at the first 5 games we play, could be it's the toughest part of our schedule by I mean, it's not even arguable, I don't think.
Right.
Especially when you add in Penn State and Pitt. Do you think Neil Brown? Do you think we're 1-5 going into the bye week, or do you think we are able to win 2 or 3 games?
2. I have us beating Duquesne and Pitt. I think emotion and being in Morgantown. We saw last year Pitt was a better team. They were better than West Virginia. Now, it was early in the year. JT Daniels had confidence, all that stuff, keeping it close. But it's a rivalry game. I think West Virginia pulls off a close win against Pitt. But that's going to be the highlight of the year. But like I said earlier, because they schedule us for the 4 new teams, all 4 of them, the schedule's not totally brutal. I think we can slide in 6-6 if we're lucky to a bowl. But that first stretch is tough, very tough. I don't think we beat Texas Tech at home. I really don't. I think Texas Tech, number 1, we're snake bit by Texas Tech, and number 2, they're going to be a much, much better team. They're my last year. Kansas State was my dark horse. This year it's going to be Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I agree
And
with that.
hopefully, I'm really hoping that Ren Baker has him on a short lease.
As for
Yes.
John Walple's super chat, I can't remember the last time West
Duquesne.
Virginia lost to the cupcake team on their schedule.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what
I
everybody was
watched,
saying last year. Who did we play? Towson. Oh,
Yeah.
Towson's
Yeah.
going to keep it close and then upset West Virginia. It's just 2 different things. 2 different.
Yeah, I can't remember. And I'm an old man. I've watched college football for all my life. I can't remember the last time West Virginia lost to their cupcake that they've scheduled.
To my knowledge, Joey, they've never lost to an FCS
They
team.
haven't.
I think
Yeah, I
they're
don't
like
believe they
13
have
or
either.
14-0.
No.
Now we've lost to some smaller. We've lost to like East Carolina or
Yep.
teams like that here and there, but over the years,
Never lost to Marshall though. Never lost to Marshall.
No, we have not lost to Marshall, thanks to Geno
Yeah.
Smith. But yeah, it's rare that West Virginia loses a game like that. To an FCS school, it's not even rare. It's never happened. But you know what? You can't take them for granted because it does happen every single season to somebody. So
Before we get out of here, I wanted to throw out my worst case scenario for West Virginia as far as conference realignment. Okay, and I said it in a video, but I'm not sure if everybody heard it. So, to me, this would be the worst possible outcome as far as conference realignment. All right. So first off, and this might surprise some people, worst case scenario, the ACC does invite West Virginia, but things fall apart after that. And the Big 12 doesn't want them back. Now, even if that did happen, I do think the Big 12 would take them back because West Virginia is a good enough brand to take back, especially in the situation that the Big 12's in. But if that were to happen, if the ACC invited West Virginia and then it was just bad timing, the ACC falls apart, shortly after, West Virginia's like, all right, hey, Big 12, we want to come back. Big 12's like, nope, we're not taking you back. What would happen to West Virginia?
Well, I tell you, I go back to what we talked about a year ago, and that is, I don't see West Virginia going to the ACC ever unless Notre Dame goes. And I think if Notre Dame was to join, then they would invite West Virginia. That would be my thing. So, but then the ACC wouldn't fall apart, so that scenario would never happen. But if it did happen, I think Big 12 would be fine taking West Virginia back.
But think about this, Joey. So let's say that happens. Big 12 doesn't take them back, and West Virginia is forced to join a conference like the Sun Belt, and now we're looking at playing Marshall every year. Like, you talk about a nightmare scenario, man.
Yeah. Dude, I'll be honest with you. My brain can't even go there, man.
I can't either. I can't go there either.
I mean, I know you love to speculate, but
that'll never happen.
Some of the ideas you come up with, I can't even fathom and can't wrap my head around.
Dude, I have college football ADHD. I admit it. I fully
admit
it.
And sometimes I enjoy them, and sometimes I'm like I'm scratching my head, going, "How's that going to happen? I mean, how can that ever happen?"
But I do love. I enjoy speculating, and I enjoy talking about what ifs, here and there. But something that far down the road, I just, I have a hard time even thinking about it, to be honest with you.
Here's what I think is going to
I don't
happen.
have a tough
I
time.
think I'm going to go to. I
anything.
think when I go to Golden Voodoo's house, he's going to have a map on this wall and some darts where he throws
Yeah.
darts and
in the
chooses the team.
stream. The
Chooses
stream.
teams and says, "Okay, what if these teams end up here?" And that's
You're
how
gonna
he
see a
watched,
bunch of
that's his
thumbtacks with
video.
strings leading everywhere.
Yeah, like an episode of a crime show or something.
Yeah.
where they're
Yeah,
investigating
exactly.
an
I'm
episode
trying to
of
solve the mystery.
yeah.
Hey guys, before we wrap it up, I want to give Kuz a chance to tell everybody where they can find him. We had a decent crowd tonight.
Yeah, you can find me on Kuz's Corner over right here on YouTube. I cover West Virginia, cover the Big 12, and I also have a basketball channel too for those of you who might be interested in college basketball called Hoops from the Hills with a guy named Mountaineer Paul. We have a basketball channel that's separate from our football stuff, so you can check us out there as well if you like West Virginia basketball.
Awesome stuff, man. I appreciate you stopping by, man. I know you have
Appreciate you having me, man. We hadn't had a chance to do this in a while.
I know it was fun. I had fun.
Yeah, I did too,
All right,
man.
man. Take it easy, man.
Thanks a lot. Good night.
No problem. Joey, do you have anything new to let the people?
Yeah,
know
I do. You know, so Yvette and I are retired, and one thing that we've talked about for a long time was traveling. We traveled for 4 years in a camper and seen the country, went around the country in the United States. I mean, visited 37 of the 50 states in a camper and enjoyed the crap out of it. Now we've decided to go international. So we were talking of moving to Thailand. We got a condo in
Wow.
Thailand. And so that's what we're going to do eventually. But now we've decided we want to travel a little bit extra. So we've started a channel as well, but it's not got any subscribers yet, and there's no videos on it. But it's going to be called Betting on Myself. And it's going to be just a travel channel where I'm going
Not a bad name.
to create videos to show people where we are and what we're doing, how much the prices are, how good the food is, things like that.
Yep.
So that's going to be something that we're going to do. It's called Betting on Myself. If anybody wants to sub it up, like I said, there's not a single sub to it right now. I just created it. But that's what we're going to do for a while. But now I'll still do college football. I'll still work with Golden Blue Dude and Mark Rogers and those channels. I mean, I can do all that stuff remotely. So
What about the merchandise store?
that's right. We do have the merchandise store. It is almost up and running, and you're going to be able to get stuff in this merchandise store, not just from Golden Blue Dude, but from Mark Rogers, from Pigskin Pete, from Exploring with Ben and Sam, from Traveling Fools, from Eat 'em Dogs. We just have like a network that we pulled together, and so the prices are going to be fantastic, guys. I'm going to tell you, because I bought all the equipment that we need and all the supplies we need to actually start making our own merchandise. So instead of having to pay these companies $18 to $20 for a T-shirt, we can actually create those T-shirts for a lot less, and therefore give you the savings. So
Yep.
you're going to be able to buy merchandise not just from Golden Blue Dude, but all these other channels as well, and at a good price. And we're excited about
Golden
that.
Blue Dude, the two shirts that we know we're going to make. Number one, the checklist. We got to do the checklist. We're going to have a
We got
checklist shirt. The other one is going to be the Get It Gang shirt. That is the name that I came up with for the group of people that leave video ideas in my comment section, and I make videos on those video ideas in the comment section. So we'll have Get It Gang T-shirts, and of course, the infamous checklist will be on T-shirts and hoodies and whatever else we can put them on.
So yeah, and like I say, now these are going to be great prices, and we're not just talking about on T-shirts. We got hoodies and hats, and we'll have jackets. We'll have everything on there, coffee mugs, stuff like that. Now the store will be open. We're hoping, pushing for next Friday to open the store, but there's a possibility that it may get pushed up a little bit, maybe to Monday or something. I'm trying to get everything launched, but it's a lot of channels and it's a lot of merchandise.
Hey, don't
I'm
push
trying
yourself,
to add,
man.
so.
We just want to make sure it comes out clean and right. So
Right,
if you don't think you're there,
so it's going to be fantastic.
Let it
it's
go.
going to be great, and the other thing too, what's going to be great about it is like you can go on the same channel there or on the same webpage and buy Golden Blue Dude merchandise, and then you can go and buy Pigskin Pete or Mark Rogers merchandise at the same time and actually get a discount because you're going to be
Oh.
buying a little bit more. So if you buy a Mark Rogers shirt, you'll be able to buy a Golden Blue Dude shirt a little bit cheaper, or vice versa.
Before I forget, our biggest contest for the Patreons is going to be the March Madness bracket contest. I know for sure that first place will at least be $50 because that's how much the bowl contest was. So it's at least going to be that. If we have more people join Patreon, then the prize dollar amount is going to go up. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And I expect big time participation in that because it's going to be our biggest contest of the entire year. I'm excited about it, Joey. Joey, I got to get out of here, man. I'm tired.
Yes, sir.
I'm doing stuff tomorrow, and you know how it is.
Hey, we like
Videos
everybody coming in,
tomorrow.
though.
Appreciate
All right,
you stopping by, man.
Good night, guys. We'll talk to everybody later.
Good job, Joey. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out. Still helps the video. If you're watching the replay of this, hit the like button. Still helps the video. And we appreciate everybody supporting the channel. Comments help. Likes help. Subscribing helps. Super chats help. All that stuff helps. There would be no Go to Blue Dude without you guys, and we appreciate you guys. But for now, we got to end this thing. So y'all have a good, what's left of your weekend. And Go to Blue Dude is out.